Welcome to Learn English by Reading. This is not just a story, it's a journey through courage, doubt, failure, and faith. A journey that reminds us that no matter where we come from, what we've lost, or how far we've fallen, the power to rise again is already inside us. In this story, you'll meet people from different walks of life. A little painter who dreams big when no one believes in him. A young runner who falls but refuses to stay down. A girl who dares to climb her mountain of fear. A musician who faces an empty stage. An old man who plants hope one seed at a time. And even a broken robot who finds purpose in his flaws. Each of their lives may seem simple, but within their hearts burns a truth that connects us all. That belief can turn weakness into strength and dreams into reality. Sometimes the loudest voice in your life is the one that says, "You can't." But deep inside there's another voice, softer but stronger, that whispers, "Try again." This story is about that voice. It's about finding light when the world feels dark. It's about believing, not because it's easy, but because you are stronger than you think. So, take a deep breath. Let's begin the journey and rediscover the magic of believing in yourself. The little painter who dreamed big. In a small village surrounded by golden fields and blue mountains, there lived a little boy named Aaron. He was quiet, gentle, and different from other children. While his friends ran outside playing football or flying kites, Aaron loved sitting near the old banyan tree with a box of crayons and a piece of paper. He loved to draw. He drew everything he saw, the sunrise, the flowing river, his mother cooking by the fire, and the old man who sold sweets by the roadside. His drawings were simple, but full of feeling. Every line showed how much he loved the world around him, but no one really understood. One afternoon, while he was drawing the village temple, a few boys walked by. They looked at his paper and laughed. "Ha! What is that supposed to be?" one of them teased. "It's a cow," Aaron said proudly. The boys laughed even harder. "That looks like a potato with legs." Aaron's face turned red. He quietly folded his paper and put it away. That night, when his mother came to tuck him into bed, she found him sitting silently, staring at his crayons. "What's wrong, my son?" she asked softly. "They laughed at my drawing," he whispered. "Maybe I'm not good at it." His mother smiled kindly. "Aaron, don't let other people's laughter stop your dreams. Remember this, every big tree starts as a small seed. You only have to believe in yourself, even when no one else does." Her words stayed in his heart like a small candlelight in darkness. The next morning, Aaron woke up early and went back to his favorite spot. He looked at the river, the trees, and the blue sky. He opened his box of crayons again. He whispered, "I believe in myself," and began to draw. Days turned into weeks. Every morning before school and every evening after homework, he practiced. He studied how shadows fell on leaves, how the sunlight made the water shine, and how colors blended softly in the sunset. Years passed, and Aaron grew older. His drawings became more beautiful. But still, no one in the village took them seriously. His father often said, "Painting won't fill your stomach, my boy. You should find a real job." The runner who fell but didn't stop. The morning sun was bright over the stadium. Hundreds of young athletes stood in lines, stretching their legs and preparing to run. Among them was Ravi, a boy from a small town, thin but full of energy. His shoes were old and worn, the soles nearly torn, but his eyes shone with hope. Running was Ravi's dream. When he ran, he felt free, as if the wind itself was his friend. Every morning, before the rest of the town woke up, he would run barefoot along the dusty road by the river. He imagined himself in big races, crossing the finish line, hearing the cheers of the crowd, but in real life, no one believed in his dream. His father worked in the fields and often said, "Ravi, running won't feed you. You need to study and find a job." Ravi nodded but kept running. He couldn't explain it, but something deep inside told him he was meant to run. One day, his school announced a district-level sports competition. The top runners would be chosen to train at the city's sports academy. Ravi's heart jumped with excitement. This was his chance, his one chance to prove himself. On the day of the race, the field was filled with students from different schools. Most wore shiny sports shoes and matching uniforms. Ravi wore his school's old jersey and shoes held together by tape. Some boys laughed when they saw him. "Hey, look at his shoes. He'll trip before the race even starts." Ravi ignored them. He stood at the starting line, took a deep breath, and whispered to himself, "Believe in yourself." The whistle blew. The runners leapt forward like arrows from a bow. The crowd cheered. Ravi started strong, his legs moving fast and his heart beating faster. Dust rose from the track, and he felt the rush of wind against his face. But halfway through the race, disaster struck. His old shoe tore completely and he stumbled. He fell hard on the ground, scraping his knees and elbows. Pain shot through his body. The other runners passed him quickly, their feet pounding the track. The cheers turned to silence. For a moment, Ravi lay still. He could taste the dust in his mouth. His eyes burned with tears. He thought about quitting, about how everyone would laugh again, how his father would say he was wasting time. The voice of doubt whispered, "You'll never make it. Just stay down." But then another voice rose in his heart, quiet but strong. It said, "You've come too far to stop now. Get up." Ravi took a deep breath. His knees hurt, his hands trembled, but he pushed himself up. He started to run again, slower this time, limping at first, but with determination burning inside him. The crowd stared. No one could believe what they were seeing. The boy who fell was running again. Each step hurt, but Ravi didn't stop. He could hear his heartbeat louder than the noise around him. The finish line looked far away, but he kept moving, one painful step at a time. And then, as he crossed it, the entire stadium went silent for a moment, and then erupted in applause. He didn't win first place, he didn't win second or third, but he finished. And when he did, something amazing happened. Even the winners walked over to him and clapped. One of them said, "You have the heart of a real champion." The chief guest, a retired runner named Coach Mera, came to him and said, "Son, the race is not always about who runs fastest. It's about who never gives up. I saw you fall, and I saw you rise. That's what makes a true athlete." Those words changed Ravi's life. Coach Mera offered him a scholarship to train under his guidance at the city academy. Ravi couldn't believe it. His eyes filled with tears as he said, "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." Training at the academy was hard. Early mornings, strict diets, and long runs under the hot sun. Many times Ravi felt exhausted. Many times he wanted to stop. But every time he thought of giving up, he remembered the day he fell and got up again. That memory gave him strength. Months turned into years. Ravi's speed improved, his endurance grew, and his belief in himself became unshakable. Finally, he qualified for the National Youth Marathon, one of the biggest races in the country. The night before the marathon, he sat alone under the stars. He thought about his old village, his father, and the boy who once ran barefoot on dusty roads. He whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I'll run not just for me, but for every person who was told they couldn't." The next day, the marathon began. Thousands of runners lined up. The air was filled with excitement and tension. When the whistle blew, Ravi started strong, his steps steady and powerful. The sun beat down, but he didn't slow. His heart was calm. He believed in himself. As he reached the last kilometer, his legs began to ache. The same pain from that fall years ago returned. His mind said, "Stop," but his heart said, "Keep going." He pushed through the pain, and when he finally crossed the finish line, he collapsed, but this time, in victory. He didn't just finish the race. He finished first. When the medal was placed around his neck, tears streamed down his face. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "I believed. And I did it." Later, he visited his old village. The same dusty roads, the same river, but everything felt different. The children ran to him shouting, "Ravi Bhaiya! You're on TV!" His father stood there too, smiling proudly. "You proved me wrong, son," he said. "You taught me what believing really means." Ravi smiled, hugged his father, and replied, "No, Papa. You taught me how to work hard. I just learned how to never stop believing." From that day on, Ravi became an inspiration to everyone in his town. Whenever a child said, "I can't do it," parents would tell them the story of the boy who fell but didn't stop. So Arun worked at a small grocery shop after finishing school. He carried heavy boxes, arranged fruits, and served customers politely. But at night, he still painted under the dim light of a single candle. His hands were tired, but his heart was alive. One day, a traveler came to the shop, a man from the city with a camera and a kind smile. He saw Arun sketching on a scrap of paper during his break. "That's a wonderful drawing," the man said. "Who taught you to draw like that?" Arun looked up shyly. "No one, sir. I just love it." The man introduced himself as Mr. Roy, an art teacher from a big city school. He looked carefully at Arun's drawings, the fields, the river, the people. "These are full of soul," he said warmly. "You see beauty in simple things. Would you like to learn more?" Arun couldn't believe his ears. "But I can't afford to study art," he said quietly. "Mr. Roy smiled. "You don't need money to start. You only need belief." That moment changed Arun's life. With Mr. Roy's encouragement, he began to paint more seriously. The teacher sent some of Arun's best paintings to a small city exhibition. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Arun's painting of the river at dawn had won first prize. When he opened the envelope and saw the golden certificate, tears filled his eyes. He ran home to show his parents. His mother hugged him tightly. "See, my son, I told you. Never stop believing in yourself." Even his father, who rarely showed emotion, placed a hand on his shoulder. "I was wrong, Arun. You truly have a gift." From that day, everything changed. Arun continued painting, and his art began to travel, to schools, cities, and finally to an international art fair. People from all over the world admired the colors and peace in his work. But Arun never forgot where he came from. The small village, the banyan tree, and his mother's words. One evening, standing in a bright city gallery filled with his paintings, a reporter asked, "What made you believe you could do all this?" Arun smiled softly and replied, "I didn't always believe I could. But one day, I decided to believe anyway, even when no one else did." That made all the difference. He looked at one of his oldest paintings, a small drawing of a cow under a tree, the one his friends had once laughed at. He thought, if I had stopped then, I would never have discovered the artist within me. The Girl and the Mountain. Far away from the busy cities, there was a small village resting in the shadow of a great mountain. The mountain was tall and proud, with snowy peaks that touched the clouds. The villagers often said, "No one can climb that mountain. It's too high, too dangerous," and so for generations, no one ever tried. In that same village lived a young girl named Mira. She was quiet, but full of dreams. Every morning, she would sit outside her little house and watch the mountains shine in the golden sunlight. It looked so peaceful, so beautiful, and so far away. While others saw danger, Mira saw a challenge. Her friends would laugh and say, "Mira, why do you stare at that mountain every day?" She would smile softly and answer, "Because one day, I want to climb it." They laughed even harder. You're too small, too weak. No one from our village has ever reached the top." Mira didn't reply. She just kept watching the mountain, her eyes full of quiet determination. Her father was a woodcutter, and her mother sold vegetables in the market. They worked hard every day, and they loved Mira deeply. But when she told them about her dream, they grew worried. Her father said, "My dear, mountains are not for little girls. They are for strong men, for adventurers." Her mother added, "It's too dangerous. Please don't fill your head with impossible dreams." Mira lowered her head and nodded. But that night, she looked out of her window and whispered to the stars, "Maybe it's impossible for them, but not for me." So she began to prepare in secret. Every morning, before sunrise, she ran up the small hills near the village. She climbed trees to make her arms strong. She practiced walking on rough ground to train her balance. The villagers didn't notice her training. To them, she was just a quiet girl who liked to wander near the hills. Months passed, and Mira grew stronger. One morning, when the first light of dawn touched the mountain, she packed a small bag with food, water, and a warm shawl. She stood at the base of the great mountain, took a deep breath, and said to herself, "I believe in myself. I will reach the top." The climb began. The path was rocky and steep. The wind howled like a wild animal, and cold mist wrapped around her. But Mira didn't stop. She moved slowly but steadily, one step at a time. At first, she felt strong, but after a few hours, her legs began to ache. The air grew thinner, and every breath felt heavy. She looked down. The village looked so tiny now. For a moment, fear whispered in her ear, "You're alone. You can't do this." Mira sat on a rock to rest. She closed her eyes and remembered her father's words. Mountains are not for little girls. A tear rolled down her cheek. Maybe he was right, she thought. Then she looked up, the peak still shining high above. It looked so far, but also so beautiful. A small voice inside her heart said, "Don't stop now. You've come this far. Believe in yourself." She stood up again. Her body was tired, but her spirit was alive. She climbed higher and higher, holding onto stones and roots. ignoring the wind that tried to push her back. As she climbed, she began to notice small signs of life. A little flower growing through the rocks, a bird building its nest on a cliff. The mountain wasn't empty, it was alive. "If these small things can survive here," she whispered, "so can I." Hours turned into a full day. The sun began to set, painting the sky in gold and orange. Mira was almost near the top when she slipped on a patch of ice and fell to her knees. Her hands bled, and her shawl tore on a rock. For a moment, she cried. The pain was sharp, the wind colder than ever. She wanted to give up. But then she looked at the sky again. Stars were starting to appear. The mountain's peak glowed softly in the moonlight, like a light calling her forward. She wiped her tears and said aloud, "If I stop now, I'll always wonder how close I was. But if I keep going, I'll know." And so she climbed again, slowly, carefully, with faith in every step. Her fingers numb, her body shaking, but her heart unbroken. Finally, after long hours of climbing, Mira pulled herself up one last time, and there it was, the top of the mountain. She stood there, breathless, her eyes wide. The world stretched endlessly around her, valleys, rivers, clouds below her feet. The first light of dawn touched her face, and tears filled her eyes. She raised her arms and whispered, "I did it. I really did it." The wind blew gently, almost as if the mountain itself was proud of her. When Mira returned to her village days later, everyone gathered around her in disbelief. Her clothes were torn, her face sunburned, but her eyes sparkled like never before. "You actually did it?" her father asked softly. "Yes, Papa," she said with a smile. "I climbed the mountain." Her father hugged her tightly. "Forgive me, my child," he whispered. "You showed me that no dream is too high if the heart is strong enough to climb." From that day on, the villagers stopped calling the mountain impossible. They started calling it Mira's Peak. And whenever someone felt afraid to chase a dream, people would say, "Remember Mira? If she could climb her mountain, so can you." The musician and the empty stage. The hall was silent. Rows of empty seats stretched out under bright white lights. On the stage stood a single microphone and a wooden stool. It was here that Leo, a young musician with kind eyes and trembling hands, stood staring at the emptiness before him. He had dreamed of this moment for years, standing on a stage, singing his songs, sharing his heart through music. But now, as the moment came closer, fear filled his chest. What if no one liked his voice? What if he forgot the words? What if they laughed? Music had been Leo's best friend since childhood. His mother worked as a nurse and often came home late, tired and quiet. Leo would sit beside her and play a small guitar his uncle had given him. His songs made her smile again. "You have magic in your hands, my son," she used to say. "Never stop playing." But when Leo grew older and began to dream of performing, people were not so kind. His classmates laughed at his soft voice. One teacher told him, "You're better off studying something practical. Music won't pay the bills." Every cruel word became a stone in his heart, but he never stopped practicing. He played his guitar on rooftops, by the river, even in the rain. Music made him feel alive. It made him forget the world's noise. One evening, he saw a poster in town. "Local Talent Night. Winner gets a record deal." His heart leapt. Could this be his chance? After a long night of thinking, he whispered to himself, "If I don't believe in me, who will?" And so, he signed up. For weeks he prepared. He wrote a song about hope, about how even broken wings can fly again. But as the competition day arrived, the old fear returned. His palms were sweaty, his voice shaky. Backstage, he saw other performers chatting confidently, their clothes shiny and perfect. He looked at his worn guitar and simple shirt and felt small. When his name was called, his legs froze. He could hear his heartbeat louder than the crowd. The host repeated, "Next up, Leo with his original song, Rise Again." He took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The lights blinded him. The crowd looked like a sea of faces waiting to judge. He sat on the stool, hands shaking, and whispered, "Believe in yourself, Leo. Just play from your heart." He strummed the first chord. The sound was soft and a little uneven. A few people whispered. Then he sang the first line, "When the night feels too heavy and the stars seem too far, remember, even the smallest light can guide you where you are." His voice trembled at first, but with every word, it grew stronger. He closed his eyes and forgot the audience. He sang for the lonely boy who once played for his tired mother. He sang for every person who had ever been told they weren't enough. His heart poured out through every note. When the song ended, the hall was completely still. Leo opened his eyes, expecting silence or laughter. Instead, he saw people standing, clapping, cheering, even crying. The host came on stage, smiling. That, he said, was not just a song. That was truth. Leo couldn't believe it. He had done it. The boy who once sang to the walls of his tiny room had just touched hundreds of hearts. He bowed, tears of relief and joy in his eyes. That night, he won the competition. But more than the trophy, he won something far greater: belief. The next day, his performance video went viral online. Messages poured in from strangers saying, "Your song gave me hope. I cried when I heard you sing. Thank you for reminding me to believe in myself." Months later, Leo was invited to perform on television. Cameras flashed, crowds cheered, and lights shone bright. But even in that huge hall, he remembered the first time he stood on that small, empty stage, shaking, afraid, yet brave enough to begin. After the show, a young girl came to him with tears in her eyes. "I wanted to sing," she said, "but I was too scared. People say I don't have a good voice." Leo knelt down, smiled, and said gently, "I used to think the same thing. But let me tell you something. The world doesn't decide your voice. You do. Don't sing to impress them. Sing to express yourself. Believe, and your voice will find its power." The girl nodded and smiled through her tears. And as Leo walked away, he realized something beautiful. Belief spreads. When you believe in yourself, you give others permission to believe in themselves too. Years passed, and Leo became a well-known singer and songwriter. But he never changed. He still visited small schools and villages, singing for children and telling his story. He would often say, "Once I was just a boy with a guitar and a dream. I was scared too, but I decided to believe, and that changed everything." One evening, during an interview, the host asked him, "What would you say to your younger self, the boy who was afraid to sing on stage?" Leo smiled softly and replied, "I'd tell him this: don't fear the empty seats, don't fear the silence, don't fear the mistakes. The only real failure is not trying. If your heart beats for something, that's your purpose. Believe in yourself. and the world will eventually hear your song." He looked up at the bright lights and whispered quietly, almost to himself, "The stage was never empty. It was waiting for me all along." The Old Man and the Seed. In a quiet mountain village, far away from the noise of the city, there lived an old man named Hero. His hands were wrinkled, his back slightly bent, but his eyes still carried the brightness of wisdom. He was known by everyone as the Seed Man because he loved planting seeds, in gardens, on hillsides, by the roadside, even in rocky ground where nothing seemed to grow. Every morning, Hero walked through the village with a small brown bag filled with seeds. He would greet everyone he met with a gentle smile. Children loved to follow him, asking, "Grandpa Hero, why do you keep planting seeds where there's only dirt?" "Nothing grows there." Hero would smile and reply, "Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But every seed deserves a chance to grow. We just need to believe." The villagers admired his kindness, but often shook their heads. "He's old and foolish," they whispered. "He wastes his time planting seeds that will never sprout." But Hero didn't mind. He had lived a long life and had learned something the others hadn't. Faith grows what the eyes cannot yet see. Years earlier, when he was young, Hero had been a farmer like his father. One year, a terrible drought struck the village. No rain came for months, and crops withered away. Many farmers lost hope and stopped tending their fields. But Hero continued to water his dry soil every morning, even though there was almost no water left. His friends laughed at him. "You're wasting your time and your water," they said. "The ground is dead." Hero only smiled and said, "The seed believes before the flower is born. I will too." And one night, when everyone had given up, a great rain finally came. The next morning, green shoots appeared all across Hero's field. While others had empty land, his field was full of life. That lesson stayed with him forever. Patience and belief turned emptiness into growth. Now, many years later, Hero planted seeds not to harvest them, but to teach others. One spring morning, a young boy named Kenta came running to him. "Grandpa Hero," he said, "I want to learn how to make things grow like you." The old man smiled. "Very well, Kenta. But remember, it's not the soil or the sun that decides the plant's fate. It's belief." He handed the boy a single tiny seed. "Plant this," he said, "and take care of it." Kenta looked disappointed. "Just one seed?" "Yes," Hero replied, "because great things begin small." Kenta went home, dug a small hole in his yard, and planted the seed. Every day, he watered it and waited. But days passed, then weeks. Nothing grew. He became frustrated and stomped his foot. "This seed is useless." He ran back to Hero. "It's not growing. Maybe I planted it wrong." The old man smiled calmly. "Ah, my boy," he said softly. "Do you know what the seed does before it shows its leaves?" Kenta shook his head. "It grows roots," Hero said. "Before we see life above the ground, life is growing silently below. The seed is building strength in secret. You must do the same. Have patience and keep believing, even when nothing seems to happen." So Kenta returned home and continued to care for his seed. Each day, he whispered to it, "I believe in you." Weeks later, one tiny green leaf broke through the soil. Kenta jumped with joy and ran to tell Hero. The old man smiled. "See? Belief doesn't always show at first, but it always works." Over the years, that small plant became a strong tree. Birds built nests in its branches, and children played under its shade. The villagers began to notice. Slowly, they started planting seeds again, too. Soon, the hills around the village turned green. Flowers bloomed where there had once been dust. The air smelled of life again, and at the center of it all was Hero's old wooden bench, surrounded by trees he had planted long ago. When people asked how he had changed the land, Hero would simply say, "I didn't change the land, I changed hearts." Once people began believing again, the earth followed. As the years passed, Hero grew older and weaker. One morning, he called Kenta, now a young man, to his side. "My time is ending, my boy," Hero said gently, "but I have one more seed for you." He placed a single seed in Kenta's hand, small, fragile, yet full of promise. "This is not just a plant," Hero whispered. "It is faith itself. Keep planting, in the ground and in others' hearts. The world needs people who believe." With tears in his eyes, Kenta nodded. "I will, Grandpa Hero. I promise." Years later, after Hero passed away, people noticed a new tree growing beside his grave, tall, beautiful, and strong. No one remembered planting it, but Kenta knew. It was the final seed, carrying the spirit of the man who had taught a whole village the power of quiet belief. Every year, on the day Hero was born, villagers would gather under that tree to celebrate Seed Day. They shared stories of dreams, hopes, and things they once thought impossible. One little girl asked Kenta, now a grown man with gray hair, "Uncle Kenta, how do you make something grow when it seems impossible?" He smiled and looked at the tree. "You don't make it grow," he said softly. "You believe it can, then you give it time." And as the wind danced through the leaves, it seemed to whisper Hero's favorite words. "Every seed carries a dream, but only those who believe will ever see it bloom." The broken robot who found purpose. In a not-so-distant future, in a city filled with tall glass buildings and humming machines, there was a small repair shop on the edge of the street called Fix-It Point. It wasn't shiny or modern like the big tech factories nearby, but it was warm and full of life. Inside, an old inventor named Mr. Weller worked quietly every day, surrounded by shelves of robot parts, wires, and blinking lights. One rainy morning, as Mr. Weller sorted through a pile of scrap metal, he found something small and rusty, a robot, broken and forgotten. Its metal body was scratched, one arm missing, and its eyes were dull. A tag on its chest read, R9. "Ah, poor little one," Mr. Weller murmured kindly. "Thrown away before even given a chance." He carefully carried the robot to his workbench and began to repair it. He replaced its arm, cleaned its gears, and polished its surface. After hours of work, he pressed the power button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the robot's eyes flickered faintly. Where am I?" it said softly. "You're in my workshop," Mr. Weller replied with a smile. "You were broken, but I fixed you, as best as I could." The robot looked down at its body. Some parts were still dented, and its movements were stiff. "But I'm still not perfect," it said sadly. Mr. Weller chuckled gently. "None of us are, my friend. Perfection is not the goal. Purpose is." He gave R 9 simple tasks, organizing tools, sweeping the floor, and greeting customers. But the robot couldn't help feeling useless. Other robots outside, shiny, fast, and new, worked perfectly in factories and offices. They were admired and respected. R9, meanwhile, struggled even to carry a box without wobbling. One day, when a group of school children visited the shop, they laughed at R9. "Look at that old robot. It's so slow," one said. "It's junk," another added. R9 turned away, his metal heart heavy. That night, he asked Mr. Weller, "Why did you fix me? I'm broken. I'm not like the others. I can't do anything right." Mr. Weller wiped his hands and said softly, "You don't have to be like the others. The world already has enough of them. You were made for something different, and that's enough reason to believe in yourself." R9 didn't fully understand, but he tried to keep going. A few weeks later, a big storm hit the city. Lightning flashed, rain poured down, and thunder shook the ground. The power grid failed, and all the shiny robots outside stopped working. Their systems depended on the central network, and without it, they shut down completely. The streets were dark and flooded. People were trapped in buildings because the automatic doors wouldn't open. Mr. Weller grabbed his flashlight and said, "The city needs help." He turned to R9. "You're not connected to the main system. You still work." R9 blinked. "Me?" "Yes, you," Mr. Weller said, smiling. "You can move. You can help." Something sparked inside R9, not in his circuits, but in his heart. He marched into the storm, his old gears squeaking. Using his strong mechanical arm, he pried open stuck doors and lifted fallen beams. His built-in light helped guide people through the dark streets. He carried lost children on his back, helped elders cross flooded roads, and delivered food from the shop to stranded families. All night he worked tirelessly. His body grew weaker, his metal rusted from the rain, but he never stopped. He kept repeating Mr. Weller's words, "Purpose, not perfection." When morning came, the storm had passed. The sun rose over the city, shining on the muddy streets and broken power lines. People gathered, safe but shaken. They looked at R9, dented, soaked, and covered in scratches, standing quietly in the center of the street. The mayor approached and said, "Who is responsible for saving everyone?" A little boy pointed, "That robot, the old one." The crowd turned and began to clap. Children who once laughed at him now hugged him. "Thank you, R9, they cried. The mayor smiled. "You may not be the newest model, but you have the biggest heart." Mr. Weller came forward, his eyes full of pride. "You see, my friend," he said to R9, "what was once broken became the most valuable thing of all." From that day on, R9 became the city's guardian robot. His story spread everywhere, the robot who didn't shut down, the one who believed even when he was discarded. When people asked R9 what made him different, he always replied, "I'm not perfect, but I believe that even broken parts can shine." Over time, his dents and scratches became symbols of courage. Visitors from far away came to see him, to learn his story, and to take photos beside the famous broken hero. One day, a young engineer visited and asked, "R9, do you ever wish you were new again?" R9 paused and looked at his reflection in a puddle, uneven, rusty, but glowing with light from his chest. He said, "No, because these marks show where I've been and what I've done. They remind me that believing in yourself isn't about being perfect. It's about doing what you can, even when you think you can't." The engineer smiled. "That's beautiful." Years later, R9's body finally stopped working. His circuits faded, his light dimmed. But before shutting down, He left a final message engraved on the wall of Mr. Weller's workshop. It read, "I was once broken, but I found my worth in helping others. Believe in yourself, because even broken hearts can change the world." When Mr. Weller read those words, he felt tears fill his old eyes. He gently placed R9's metal hand on the shelf, beside a small sign that said, "Not perfect, just powerful," and every child who came to visit the shop after that would look at R9's hand, touch the engraved message, and whisper, "I'll believe too." The final message: you are enough. The sun was setting slowly, painting the sky with golden fire. Somewhere between the hills and the clouds, the light touched everything. The boy who painted, the runner who fell but stood up again, the girl who climbed her mountain, the musician who faced the empty stage, the old man who planted seeds, and the broken robot who found his worth. Their stories were different, their paths never crossed, yet they were all bound by one invisible thread: belief. Belief is quiet. It doesn't always shout or shine. Sometimes it whispers in the middle of the night when you're scared. Sometimes it's the soft voice inside you that says, "Try one more time." It doesn't promise that the road will be easy, but it promises that you will grow stronger along the way. In every story, belief began small, like a single spark in the dark. The painter believed when no one else did. The runner believed when everyone doubted her. The girl believed even when the mountain felt too high. The singer believed in his trembling voice. The old man believed in seeds no one could see. And the robot believed after everyone had thrown him away. Their courage didn't come from being special. It came from being human, from facing fear, failure, and pain, and still choosing to move forward. Because believing in yourself doesn't mean you never fall. It means when you fall, you don't stay down. It means you whisper, "I can still do this," even when everything hurts. One evening, imagine all of them sitting together around a quiet fire: the painter, the runner, the girl, the musician, the farmer, and the robot. They don't speak much at first. The air is soft, the fire warm. Then the little painter looks up and asks, "How did you all keep believing?" The runner smiles gently. "I remembered why I started." The girl nods. "I told myself that every step, no matter how small, still counts." The musician adds, "I sang even when my voice shook." The farmer chuckles. "I trusted the roots before I saw the leaves." And R9, the robot, with his glowing chest light, says softly, "I believe that even broken things have purpose." The little painter looks around the fire and says quietly, "So, belief isn't about being sure. It's about not giving up, right?" Everyone nods. The fire crackles like laughter. The truth is, you already have everything you need inside you. The world will tell you you're not enough, that you need to be stronger, smarter, prettier, faster. But the world doesn't know what burns inside your heart. Only you do. You are not defined by your mistakes, your scars, or your fears. You are defined by how many times you stood up again. Every great dreamer, every hero, every success story started the same way, with doubt. The difference is, they didn't let the doubt win. They walked through it, step by step, breath by breath, until their belief became stronger than their fear. Think of the seed from Hero's story. It didn't bloom in a day. It grew quietly underground. You are that seed, too. Even when you don't see results yet, something powerful is growing inside you. Think of the runner who fell. Her fall wasn't the end. It was the beginning of her courage. Think of Leo, the musician. His voice trembled, but it still reached hearts. Think of R9, the broken robot. He couldn't be replaced because his heart made him unique. And think of you reading these words right now. There will be days when you feel lost, when nothing seems to work, when people doubt you or when you doubt yourself. On those days, close your eyes and remember this simple truth. You are enough, exactly as you are. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You only need you. Belief is a light that never dies, even when it flickers. Sometimes, it's just a tiny glow in the dark. But that's all you need to keep walking. Every great journey begins with one step. Every great song with one note. Every great dream with one brave thought. I can. If you whisper those words every day, even when you don't feel ready, the world around you will start to change. Your confidence will grow, your courage will return, and your life will begin to bloom in ways you never imagined. Many years later, people in that small mountain village still tell Hero's story to their children. In the city, a statue of R9 stands, glowing softly at night with the words, "Even broken hearts can shine." At a small school, a painting of a sunrise by a little boy named Tom hangs on the wall with a sign, "Dream big, believe always." And somewhere, a girl with dusty shoes stands at the top of her own mountain, smiling into the wind. All of them carry the same invisible seed, the seed of self-belief. So now, it's your turn. You are part of this story too. You have your own canvas to paint, your own race to run, your own mountain to climb, your own song to sing, your own seeds to plant, your own light to shine. You will face days when the world feels heavy and your heart feels tired. You'll hear voices telling you you can't, but there will always be a quieter voice inside you that whispers, "Keep going. You can." That's the voice of belief, gentle, powerful, unstoppable. When you listen to it, doors will open where there were only walls. You'll find strength you didn't know you had. And one day, you'll look back and realize that believing in yourself wasn't just about achieving something big. It was about discovering who you really are. Because when you believe, you become unstoppable. When you believe, you find purpose. When you believe, you shine. And when you shine, you light the way for others to believe too. Final message. Believe in yourself, not because others say you can, not because everything is perfect, but because deep inside you already carry the strength, the talent, and the light the world needs. You are not too late. You are not too small. You are not broken. You are enough. So dream bravely. Fall. Stand. Try again. Keep painting. Keep running. Keep singing. Keep growing. Keep believing. And remember this, the world changes when you do. And so, our journey ends, but the message stays forever. We saw dreamers, runners, singers, planters, and even a broken robot, each one learning that true strength begins the moment you decide to believe. Their worlds changed, not because life became easier, but because they stopped giving up on themselves. That same light lives inside you too. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are right now. You carry the power to begin again. You don't need permission to dream. You don't need to be perfect to shine. You only need the courage to take one more step, one more breath, one more try. Whenever life feels heavy, remember this. Even the smallest candle can break the darkest night. Even the slowest seed can grow into a mighty tree. And even the quietest heart can make the loudest difference if it believes. So keep going, keep trusting, keep believing, because every great story, every great victory, every great life starts with a single thought. I can. Never forget, you are enough. You are capable. And you are meant to shine. Thank you for walking this journey of belief. Now go write your own story and make the world brighter, one brave heartbeat at a time.